Welcome back, players and coaches. Today we are joined by the head coach at Lane Tech High School in Chicago, Illinois, Nick LoGalbo.
Yes, sir.
Coach LoGalbo attended Lane as a student, and then after he graduated, he went and played at Benedictine University. He's a Chicago guy through and through because that's right there, nice and local. And then since then, he's gone back. He's now been the head coach at Lane and took over the athletic director position a year or two ago. He's also involved in USA basketball, youth development, the 3-on-3. He's got 2 kids. He's a busy guy. Coach, really appreciate you taking the time. Did I miss anything in the intro?
We got baby number 3 coming in about a week. So, but no, man, very blessed, very excited to be on with you, my brother.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, we're going to get right into it here. Talking about shooting. So obviously talk a little bit about your high school and kind of how it works, because you are in a unique situation at a public school. But can you just kind of explain a little bit about how your school works a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure working all those camps, Snow Valley with you, I have to, kind of tell everyone the lay of the land every year with all of our kids that come to the camp. But, Lane is a unique school. And again, like you said, I attended Lane. I met my wife at Lane. It's a very special place to me. But we're a part of the Chicago public school system. But we have 4,600 kids in our building. We're the biggest school in the state, one of the biggest schools in the country. We're located right on 2 major cross streets in the city on Western and Addison. So we're about 2 miles west of Wrigley Field for all you Cubs fans. But we're also a very, very high academic school. So you have to actually, it's a selective enrollment school. You have to test to get in. So typically about 10,000 students in the Chicagoland area take the test. And what that means, like I shouldn't say normal, but a public high school in Chicago is typically a neighborhood school. So you're districted out and you go to the school in your neighborhood. But with our school, if you test in, I mean, we can get students coming from the farthest south point of our city to the furthest north, to the furthest west. So, I think the first year I worked Snow Valley, a guy I brought down to Snow Valley camp was one of my captains, and it took him 2 hours to get to Lane every day, 2 buses and a train. And he was our captain, and he was there at 6 a.m. practice. Like, you talk about commitment. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. We play in the top conference in the city. We play with programs like Whitney Young, or teams that have, Farragut, Marshall, teams that have a lot of, basketball tradition in our city and boast a lot of high-level players. But being the high academic school we are, we got to find ways to compete and stay creative and, have some fun.
Just for the people that don't know how good Chicago basketball is, who are some of the names that you've coached against or that have come through your league, and go back as far as you'd like, because I don't think people quite understand how good it is.
Appreciate that, man. I could always talk about this. Chicago public. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but I think to me, the mecca of high school basketball in the country. We have, obviously, I mean, you go back before I was even born, you're talking about Isaiah Thomas, we're talking about Doc Rivers, we're talking about Mark Aguirre. I can go on and on, Hersey Hawkins. But then you get, kind of like as I came up playing, I was playing against guys like Will Bynum. He was the toughest guy that I ever had to guard. D. Brown, who played with U of I. Those are guys that I played against. But Luther Head, who was in the league for quite a stint, that's a guy we played against. But then when I started coaching, I'm just so thankful that we didn't have to play Simeon when Derrick Rose was there, because that would have given me nightmares. Jabari Parker, right? Jaleel Okafor. Just recently, DJ Stewart, who just committed to Duke. Well, not just, but he committed to Duke. He'll be there next fall. Coached against him 3 times now. McDonald's All-American. Adam Miller's was in Morgan Park in Chicago right now. USA basketball guy. I mean, I can keep going. I mean, it's just there's just so much talent. I mean, you lose. There's just so many NBA guys and high major Division I players that come out of our area. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, you're going through the ringer every night. So as we're going through, so obviously as a higher academic school being selective, how do you guys find ways to win? Because as coaches and players are viewing this, some of them may have a low talent level. What are some things you focus on as a program? How's it evolved? Because you've been at Lane now for 6 years.
No, I've been here. I've been at the school for 15 years. Yeah.
Got you. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's
But no,
all.
I've been the head coach for 12. And to your point though, I think, I started working Snow Valley about 8 or 9 years ago. I think that's when you and I
Got it.
really started connecting. So no worries about that. But but to your point though, I mean, if you follow Lane, you probably didn't hear anything about us before 6 years ago, 7 years ago, because that's the point. We're not. I have not coached one Division I player in my time in 15 years. We have not had one Division. I mean, even low major, we haven't had one Division I recruit. We've had a couple D2 guys, a lot of D3 guys, but in our league, we're playing against high major. Most of the teams in our league have high majors, night in and night out. So for us, I love the question is very poignant for me because we've had to be really creative. But some things that we do, our culture is a big deal to us. What we live and breathe every day. We talk about being tougher and smarter than the guys we're going to play every night. And we have a pride in that. Tougher isn't from the Jay Billis book. Tougher isn't you know being able to because people get toughness and being hard confused, right? Like if something is hard, that breaks very easily, right? Like I mean, it's strong, but with enough pressure that will just shatter into a million pieces. We don't want to be hard. We don't want to project this bravado. We want to be tough. And tough means we're going to withstand things. We're going to be able to bend and ebb and flow and kind of take the shots that come at us and just find ways to stay consistent in our approach and just find ways to keep ourselves in games. And for us, it's really a high level, a high priority for us is on the defensive end. Most of our practice, I mean, we spend a lot of time on how we're going to defend. And then a lot of our time is spent on shooting the ball because we have to make shots. And we're not going to really beat the teams in our league in transition. We know that. So, and we're not going to beat them playing iso ball going one-on-one. We're going to share the sugar, make the extra pass, and we're going to defend at a high level. So that's kind of been our formula.
Excellent. So getting into the shooting, so what as freshmen are entering, and obviously you have all schools are your feeder schools, so you really get players as freshmen. How when you go to talk about teaching shooting, obviously you hope there's no bad habits, but what are the things that you are non-negotiable on from footwork standpoint, from just an overall? Everybody has a little bit different philosophy. If you could just expand on that.
So it's a really good question too, because you're right, man. Like I get mad hearing about all of my coaching friends that have a feeder system and know all their players coming in and have been drilling them for years, because we'll get guys from every walk of life, every different background, just barely playing high school or grammar school ball to playing travel. So we take a lot of pride in our skill development and what we do with our guys. So in terms of like non-negotiables, in terms of teaching, and this may sound a little contradictory, we spend a lot of time shooting and getting reps, but I've also never been a guy that wants to micromanage somebody's shot. I think that, by the time we're getting them, like when we do our youth camps, when we do, and again, we could do a youth camp, we'll get 100 kids, a session, but maybe, 10 of those kids will get into our school, 20 of those kids will come to our school, who knows? At that level, we're talking obviously what a lot of us teach. We teach the beef, balance, eyes, elbow, follow through, and we get really, break down mechanics. But by the time they get to us, we kind of make it about three things. We make it about base and balance, right? Like making sure that, because every shot starts from your legs, and having strong balance is going to be a key to being a consistent shooter, right? So we talk base balance. We talk about shooter's pocket. Like right before I got on this call with you, I just tucked my son into bed, and we have a routine. He's only 3 years old, but we have a routine. He has to make a shot on his little hoop, his Nerf hoop in his room every night. So, the other day, for whatever reason, he just started trying to like finger roll. I'm like, what are you doing? So like, I mean, literally grabbed his hand. I just flipped him around, and I'm like, this is your shooter's pocket. And I mean, he a week straight now. I mean, he's just one time, just cash, and it's like, there's no, it's not scientific. You have to have a shooter's pocket to get good trajectory on your shot. I think a lot of times you see, like my point guard right now, who is got such a tight handle. He can handle pressure against anyone we see, and I trust him with the ball in any of those moments. But he's not a consistent enough shooter to keep the defense honest. So we've been working on his shot virtually. And the first thing I've been telling him, I'm watching film on him, and his wrist is still a little straight, so he's getting kind of that push instead of getting that, that nice release that we want. So we talk, we talk shooter's pocket and kind of getting that 90-degree angle with that, the palm, obviously ball not touching the palm of your hand. And then finally, just shooting it straight. I know that sounds very basic, but that's a big Drew Hanlon thing with Pure Sweat. I listen to him a lot, and I got to thinking like, because when you teach beef, right, you teach the elbow. For us, we always talk about the elbow being aligned with your hip, with your knee, your foot. So you're kind of getting that full range of motion. I mean, that's just shooting it straight. So we just want to kind of keep it simple. So those are the three kind of non-negotiables and things we talk about with our guys. So.
Mm-hmm. So with your shooting pocket, I liked how you talked about the wrist. Do you ever mess with teaching them, try to have some wrinkles in the back of their wrist?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a, we hear these terms as coaches and we steal stuff from everybody, but yeah, the wrinkles in the back. We try to give visuals, and like I said, when our season first started this year, I'm not an artist. The same kid I was just talking about. I mean, I drew a little stick figure, you know what I mean? Like just like seriously, like straight line, straight, you know what I mean? I mean, it was the worst, drawing in the world, but like, I think he got the visual, just
Mm-hmm.
understanding that you have to have a trajectory on your shot. If you're flat here, you're going to be shooting a lot of line drives. You're not going to have any arc. You're not going to give yourself, because his legs aren't bad, he's getting some lift. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
those are the types of things I think shooting it straight, having that shooter's pocket, I mean, are paramount, and then base and balance. Those are the things that we preach. So.
What are your cues or teaching points on base and balance? Because I think that is ultra very important.
So I think, when you talk about that, you also have to talk about, for base and balance, you have to talk about what kind of shot we're getting into, right? Because if we're talking about just a catch and shoot, that's going to be a little different for us than like a stride step, like coming off a screen, or a stride step off the bounce, right? I actually just
Mm-hmm.
worked out one of our alum the other day, and great footwork. But off the bounce and off the catch, that stride step footwork is very similar, right? So base balance off the catch or off the bounce, we always talk about that inside foot being planted first, and really kind of screwing that thing into the ground so you have a good foundation. That's where your base is coming from. So you get that inside foot down, and as you're loading up, you get that second foot down, and that creates the trajectory for your shot. So the 1-2 step, we call it a stride step. That's really key for balance off the dribble or off the catch. So that's one of the big things for us. We always talk about feet trying to be shoulder width apart. You get a little too, I mean, and we're not married to that, but that's kind of like our cue, as you said. Some guys get a little wider base, some guys get a little skinnier. But if we feel you deviate from that too much, you're going to get knocked off balance, or you're going to be kind of kicking your legs out, and your shot's going to be all kind of over the place. And then we talk about straight up, straight down. So that's another one of our cues, and some things like we've done like beach workouts in the summer, like in the sand, like no basketball, like just stuff like that. But we have them doing like just jumping straight up, straight down. They see their feet in the sand, and we kind of remind them like that's what a good jump shot's going to look like. You know what I mean? Like straight
Mm-hmm.
up, straight down. Not too complicated. Just trying to keep it stupid simple.
Absolutely. No, I like that. So you said inside foot. So that's if I'm coming off the baseline to come in, catch at the top of the key. Does that deviate if I'm catching it maybe on a reversal on a, from the top of the key, I'm coming into it and wing, not necessarily like, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's basically a reversal pass. I'm catching facing the basket. Is it still inside foot, or is it foot freedom, or what, or do you not, is that too
Yeah. So
detailed?
when we were talking about on the move, I'm thinking like obviously a big part of our offense, a lot of offenses, we get wide pin downs, we get stagger screens. So you're coming off that baseline to the middle of the floor, inside foot, right? When you're talking about like maybe rejecting that pin down and getting a fade, right? Or something like that. I still personally feel like even on the flare, on the fade, whatever terminology you want to use, you're meeting that pass with a 1-2 step, and it's still your inside foot down first. So we preach inside foot down first a lot. I mean, and again, though, at the end of the day, sometimes you're going to deviate a little bit from that. The game is live. Guys are going to make reads. If guy's making a jump shot and feels confident, and he's, because again, too, like thinking about to that first point, catch and shoot. If you're getting a pass and you're stationary, I know a lot of people are really married to like, even Snow Valley, when we're teaching shooting, a lot of times, get that inside foot down and 1-2 step into your jump shot when you're stationary. But we have some guys in our program and guys that I've coached over the years who really just still like prefer just that jump catch and landing both feet at the same time. And I think a great term I heard recently, Coach Fitch out in New York, who I've gotten to work with USA Basketball a little bit, he calls it puncture shooting. And he keeps it as simple as as long as you're stepping into your shot in rhythm, right? Because they actually charted their percentages are monumentally like skyrocketing when they get a puncture shot versus just a catch where they're flat footed, right? So
Mm.
puncture can mean 1-2 step on the catch and shoot. Puncture can mean like meaning it on the 2 foot, but you're meeting the pass in rhythm. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes, we
Mhm.
preach that 1-2 step, but sometimes it's going to deviate a little bit. As long as you're in rhythm, I think that's the key.
Gotcha. And now thinking back as a player, how are you? Was that your flaw? Was that how you were taught as a player as well?
So that's
Or
so
what?
no,
Because
that's a really good
I'm
question.
trying to transition a little bit into talking about, so as players moving into the summer, how can we get there? So as a player, well, but just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I remember, and I'm not trying to throw anyone on the bus, but when I was playing, I don't personally feel like I got a lot of instruction. I just played a ton of basketball, and I loved it, and I was just obsessive about it. But when I got to college, I learned very quickly how much I didn't know, and how much I needed to learn in a very fast amount of time if I wanted to have any shot at playing. And I remember, of course, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I was an All-American. I was a backup point guard my whole career in college, and lucky to get minutes if I got them. And I played against a guy who was an All-Region player who got some tick overseas. Who he transferred in my junior year, took my minutes junior and senior year, but I mean, he and I are really good friends to this day. I mean, learned a lot from him. But I remember for me with shooting, I was going into my sophomore year of college, and I remember we got a kid coming in, a freshman came in, and this dude, I mean, man, could he score it and he could shoot it off the bounce and off the catch, which I was just a kind of a catch and shoot guy, but I had to be, I mean, I had to be a point guard at that level. I wasn't a combo guard. I wasn't a guy just. So I had to get a lot better at getting my footwork down and getting a quicker release. So this
Mhm.
guy came in, and I just watched that same stuff we just talked about. I think I got a lot of it from him and watching his footwork, how quick his release was from that 1-2 stride step off the bounce. And we ran a lot of stagger screens back in the day. When I played
Mhm.
in college, that was our secondary break, reversal, stagger screen. So he would come off of that a lot. And I remember he had 35. He was a freshman at 35 in a big game for us. And I'm on the bench just watching him and watching his feet the whole time. And I was like, that's where I feel like that's where I got my education on shooting, was watching
Mhm.
guys that I played with. So
Gotcha. So what types of drills is he? You're talking about his feet, and that was great. So I mean, was he just going on? I don't know if there was the gun, or Dr. Dish back in the day, or if it was your
uh,
girlfriend or your
yeah.
whatever, or your teammate rebounding for you. But what types of things did you do and did he do? It sounds like he was obviously a really good scorer. What types of things did he go in and work on?
So that's a good point. I remember watching him work out, and it was just as simple as partner shooting, having a guy and just working on his forward coming off screens. But for me, in terms of like what kind of drills, I think we're kind of getting to that transition here. We do a lot of stuff with that footwork. And I will get some film, but like a couple things, almost like warm ups for us. Two
Mhm.
big warm up things that we do. Not to go backwards, but before I get to that 1-2 step and that stride step stuff, the first thing that I have our guys do when we talk about getting into a shooting workout, it's this imagery that's just ingrained in my brain from when I was a little kid, being an obsessive Michael Jordan fan. But he always talks about like one of the first times he played in the Boston Garden. And I don't know if this story's made up or not, but Jordan said it in one of his "Come Fly with Me" videos or whatever. But it stuck with me since I was a little kid about walking in the garden just being pitch black and Jordan thinking he was getting there early to get shots up. And there's Larry Bird on the other end of the court and just standing right in front of the rim and just getting a couple hundred shots just 5 feet away, just working on his form, just sweating. And that just stuck with me. And again, I don't know if that's how much validity or truth there is to it, but that's what I did my whole career. Every time I started a workout, I got to the front of the rim. I made 10 from the 5 spots right around the rim, got my legs into it, got my rhythm. I tried to make them all without hitting the rim. So I had kind of perfect form and had good lift. And I make our guys do that a lot. That's kind of like one of our intros to shooting. And then the second drill we call it's a Steve Nash drill. We just call it Nash. And it's essentially it's you and a ball. You don't need a partner. I do this in my alley now, my hoop, trying to stay in shape. You're just spinning the ball out to yourself. I don't know if you could see it. Just spin it
Yeah.
out, working 1-2 step, getting a little shot, spin it out to the other side, 1-2 step, spin it out, and you're slowly working your way around to just making a complete circle about 8 to 10 feet away. And then after you do that, you can slowly work your way out. But it's just constantly baseline to baseline, baseline to baseline, and you're just spinning it out and working on almost like you're coming off a pin down every time. And it's a great way to get warmed up and it kind of reminds yourself of getting your feet right and getting loaded up, base balance. So those are two kind of warm up things we do. And then, we'll transition into, I have a bunch of drills we can talk about if you want to get there. Or, I know you got some things on the docket here, so I'll just kind of pump the brakes.
No, that I'm glad I'm glad you went back to the warm up routine because I am very curious. So you mentioned one you have your guys do, and you mentioned yours. What was your really good teammate who's had 35 as a freshman? What was his shooting routine like? Or other guys that you do a lot of stuff with USA basketball. What are some of the high level shooting routines you've seen, or things that you've seen that work?
Yeah. So, back to that teammate, I just remember him and his two roommates. They were just always in the gym, and they just did. It was that 3-man 2-ball shooting drill, and it was just constantly, And this is something we did in practice, but they kind of stole it and did it, in their own workouts, on their own. But it was a lot of times it was just, you can go short corner out to 3, but you're kind of getting a shot, and you're going back and forth, but you're kind of stepping into every shot. You're not sliding, and that's a big problem, I think. It's something we correct in our program. You're not just sliding side to side. You know what I mean? I mean, every once in a while, like if you get a drive and you're sliding over, that's going to happen. But a lot of times you might be sprinting in transition, your teammate kicks to you. You have to kind of get into the rhythm and get into your shot. So we really make sure we have guys understanding, to steal Coach Fitch's terminology, that puncture shooting. You want to be getting into the shot. You don't want to be flat-footed. You want to be shot ready, 10 fingers to the sky, meeting the pass in rhythm. So that 3-man 2-ball shooting, you're just going, side, side, then your partner goes, right? Then you're going kind of top of the key. And again, you're kind of backpedaling, stepping into the shot, stepping into the shot. And then you're getting, again, kind of drift corner to wing, back and forth, back and forth. They did that drill religiously. I've been coaching for 15 years. That's been one of the drills that's been in our practice plans every year. Just very simple, a lot of reps. You go for a minute at a time. You compete against each other to see how many you can get in a minute. But again, the whole time you're forced to work on getting shots in rhythm. You're not just sliding side to side and shooting off your heels or anything like that. So that's a big one. Something that we really like to do to kind of simulate that type of stuff. Another one I stole from a guy, Joe Lewandowski, who's out of Pennsylvania. He calls it IQ shooting. But really, you can tailor this to any offense or whatever you run. Like if you're getting in a gym this summer, if you're by yourself, you have to be creative. You can spin the ball out and get the shots out of your – I think it's really important, just backtracking, get shots out of your system. Like when you warm up, yes, do Spurs 100, right? Get 10 threes from each spot, see how many you're going to make, just catch and shoot. For sure, work on your form, get reps. But you also should be – part of your workout should be including shots out of your offense. If you're someone who runs flex, if you're someone who runs – that secondary, we're getting stagger screens, whatever you're running for your high school program, for your middle school program, for your college program, you should be getting shots in your system. So we call it IQ shooting now. Just as simple as just drive and kick. Guy at the top of the key, guy at the wing, like we talked about, drift into that corner, drive and kick. Guy in the baseline, guy in the other wing, baseline drive happens, relocating to the corner, drive and kick. So you're constantly getting shots, not just stationary, but getting into the action that you'll be getting shots out of, during the season. So I think that's really important. And then one more with that same kind of thought in mind. We like I said, we have IQ shooting. We call it 14s. So, man, I am going to record this stuff for you, Joel.
No worries, man.
But
I appreciate
14,
you taking the time, and with new baby, I'm not gonna even try to attempt that with your wife.
Yeah, well, yeah, she's ready to go, man. We're literally a week or two away from the due date, so we're pumped. But anyway, let me get, so we call it 14s. Another one where it's kind of like not stationary, it's shooting off the bounce or shooting off the move. So there's 14 spots, really it's 7. So you have 1, 2,
Move it up
3.
just a little bit.
Yeah, my bad. My bad. I
Perfect.
got a
No,
really
you're
good
good.
marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you go 7, 8. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, 6, 7. And then you go back outside 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you just kind of, you're on the move the whole time. You can't move to the next spot until you make that shot. So you start at 1, you make that short corner jumper. You're sprinting to get your rebound. You're spinning it out. You're working on your stride step, and you're getting a shot from the short corner here. And you're just constantly sprinting, and you can't move on to the next spot until you make that shot. But you're also competing against yourself every time. You have to make 14 shots. How many attempts does it take you, right? So, when I first started doing this myself, I remember I was in the the mid 20s, but our goal, we wanted to get down to, like, if you're shooting 14 for 21 with no defense, that's a really, that's a good number. That's 66%. So we've just kind of done that, and we have personal bests, and we have competitions with the guys when we do these drills. So
no, I like that, especially with tossing it out. If you're a person that's going to be by yourself, that's great. Yeah, I'll film that one for you. No worries. That's great stuff. No, and then, so you mentioned getting shots in your system. What if I'm a person that, I guess we see it a lot out here in Oregon because we have no bigs. We get the 6'4" kid that gets stuck inside of the 4 out, 1 in, and he doesn't like that. So what advice would you have to that player? Maybe he or she has aspirations of playing at the next level, and they know, hey, I'm not going to be a 6'4" big, or if you're on the women's side, I'm not going to be a 5'9" post anywhere I want to go. So how do I go this offseason, because I'm trying to take advantage of my summer? What types of advice would you give that person?
That's a really good question, Joel. I think so. One thing, and it's kind of a tough pill to swallow, but being a great teammate is part of being a recruitable athlete. I think sometimes guys are spoiled because they don't feel like all their talents are being displayed because they're part of a system that kind of puts them in a box. And unfortunately, I think that's why we see the transfer portal so big at the collegiate level, and guys want to get notoriety. They want their skills to be displayed. They went to a school and the system isn't really showcasing their talents. But, at the high school level, I think being a great teammate is really important. Now, I think having a conversation with your coach is really important. We talk about that all the time in our program. Like, we can have the tough conversations, like man to man, woman to woman, whatever it is. Like, you need to be able to speak your mind and speak your truth, but you also need to be able to hear the truth, right? So, we've had some guys over the years, like, yeah, like you can shoot it a little bit, but for us to win, because maybe we have a couple other shooters and you do have some size, we need you to do a little bit, some other things for us. But I also think if I'm a good coach and I care about my student athletes, I'm also trying to find ways, if he really can shoot it or she really can shoot it, I am trying to find ways to showcase some of that and to let their talents help us win. So, maybe that we do play a lot of 4-on-1, but maybe we have a guard who has a little bit of size and he can leave that block, set a back screening, and get him some looks on the perimeter. But what I would say, that the advice I would give is, hey, the summers is when basketball players are made. Make your coach see you as a shooter by putting in the work this summer. Because I'll tell you what, we talked about this. We had a call at USA Basketball last week, and we talked about that shooting license, right? Like, most coaches have a shooting license. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to shoot in our program, let's get the gun out, or let's do the Spurs 100, and you've got to make 60 out of 100 or whatever that number is. And if you're out there and you can do that, but your coach still says, hey, no, you're only big guy, you have to be on the block. And this guy, and if you're the best shooter in our program, but I'm putting you on the block, I don't know, that's poor coaching in my opinion. So make your coach see you as a shooter, put in the work anyway. And you know what, at the end of the day, even if you don't get those reps at the high school level, if you're 6'4", undersized big, but if you're defending, if you're setting good screens, if you're being a great teammate, and if you're showing in whatever advantage or opportunities you have, if you're showing you can make that shot, get to the line and shoot 80%. You know what I mean? That shows you have a stroke. And then when I know when a coach asks me about one of my players, I'll tell them, hey, they don't really do this for us that much, but they're capable. Or, hey, this is something they need to work on. I'm going to be honest with college coaches because I don't want to put a kid in a situation where they can't succeed. So put in the work and good things will happen. Show up with your hard hat on.
I love it.
They're getting
On
fired
that
up.
same no, that on that same note, how do you make the jump as a and we deal with this a lot out here, is the guy that wants to shoot threes and they're not quite there yet. What, other than just get reps this summer, how do I make that jump if I'm out here in Oregon, like I said, we're small. So if I'm that 5'6" freshman, I just haven't hit my growth spurt yet. And I obviously am shooting threes as a guard. You have to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. How do I get stronger, or what do I do to extend my range back a little bit?
Yeah. You know what, Joe? Because I was that 5'6" guard myself. So I can definitely empathize. Yeah. I can definitely empathize. I think, it's a slippery slope, Joel. I think the advice that I would give is like don't, if you're not strong enough physically to make, first of all, like I said earlier, I really believe jump shots are made with your legs. You know what I mean? I think finishing is with your eyes. I think jump shots are from your legs. Obviously, if everything's good up here and you have one good fluid motion, that's great, but your power is coming from your legs. I think you see a lot of guards when they haven't hit their growth spurt yet and they're still physically kind of, maturing. A lot of times you'll see them get that little hitch in their shot and start, because they want to get it there, and they start kind of catapulting and throwing it. And I was that guard, and I'm telling you, it did more harm than good, because I feel like I had years of trying to correct this hiccup and just getting it into getting fluid with my stroke. So I would just say to that 5'6" guard, dominate the simple, get reps, do your form shooting around the rim, and slowly work your way out. And I think something I stole from Duke camp, this is a thing that they always talk about at the Duke camp. It was almost like a competition. It's the Johnny Dawkins drill. So Johnny Dawkins would just start right. Johnny Dawkins was the leading scorer in Duke history, if you don't know, before J.J. Redick. Played in the NBA. Obviously, was coaching at Duke, coaching at Stanford. Now was with UCF. But anyway, back to the point. Start in front of the rim. Make your form shooting 2 feet in, make your shot. Take a step back, make your shot. Take a step back, make your shot. And the rule was go until, if you miss 2 in a row, that's your range, right? Now, don't be married to that. Every once in a while you have a day where you miss 2 in a row. But, oftentimes I would do this, and I do this with my players, and, I would have bigs that wanted to tell me they could shoot threes. Well, I'm like, all right, well, let's see your range. And they're out at 18 hitting them, and they step out to 20. They miss one, but they make it. And then they step out to 22, and they're not doing it. You know what I mean? And there's a little proof in that. So I think if you're a 5'6" guard, get great in your range. Make sure your form doesn't suffer because you want to get out and shoot threes too quickly. Because I think if you're a 5'6" guard, there's a lot of things you can do to make your team. Yes, you do need to make open threes. I get what you're saying. But if you're a 5'6" freshman trying to make your freshman team, if you're defending your butt off, if you're taking care of the ball without turning it over, and you're a floor captain and leading, I think you're going to find your spot. And I think that if you're not comfortable with that 3, shot fake, 1 dribble pull-ups, but continue to build your range, because you are going to mature. It's going to happen. You're going to hit that growth spurt, and you're going to start getting into the weight room, and you're going to get that strength. And then I think it's time, because if your form's still there, now it's just a matter of getting a little more oomph into that shot. I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Hey, you built it and played college basketball. I'd say most guys, that, at least in my experience, they're happy with that. So that's great advice. Now, you mentioned finishing with your eyes. How do you work on finishing in your athletic league, where there's some guys that are going to throw it into the tuba section if you lay it up there for them? So how do you work on that in practice?
Yeah, that's a really big thing for us, Joel, because like you said, we want to be able to make open threes, right? We want to shoot. We try to make 12 threes a game. That's kind of one of our things that we've been talking about. This past season, we deviated from that a little bit, but for the most part, that's been who we are. But obviously 12 threes a game is not going to win you games. You still have to be able to make shape up layups. You have to be able to finish at the glass off offensive rebounds. And then obviously we will get into transition. Like, we still want to get in transition where we can. So we got to be able to finish. So some things that we talk about with finishing, like we said, number one, finish with your eyes. You make layups with your eyes. And when I'll play open gym with my players and I miss a layup, I mean, that's the joke. My guys just let me have it because I say it so much. Finish with your eyes, finish with your eyes. And they just kill me when I miss a layup. That's one of the big things. We ingrain that into our guys. You finish with your eyes. We talk about start low, finish high. A lot of especially our smaller guards, they get in the paint and they're trying to elude everybody and jump away from the rim. Well, your percentage is going down and down and down. You know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, every once in a while, your shot might get sent. You have to live with that if you're a guard or even if you're big. But we talk about start low, finish high, right? We talk about chin on the rim, and we talk about finish with your eyes. I mean, it's not super complicated stuff, but then we drill it a lot. Obviously, we do. Simple stuff like miking and reverse miking is great. That's great. That's foundational stuff. But again, we'll do a lot of stuff finishing in our offense. So another drill we do is called snapshot shooting. So like, for example, if we have, for example, like a stagger screen, we'll get some of that action. So we have someone coming off and we have two screeners. This marker is really weak. I got to make it a little bigger, but we have two screeners, right? So the shooter's coming off getting a three right here. So we have three passers, right? So, this guy's hitting the shooter. He's shooting a three, right? We then have the first screener shaping up to the rim and the second screener fading. So we're getting three shots. So then this guy hits the skip for a second three, but then this guy's shaping up, right? Because if they lock and trail, or if the big hedge is hard here, that slip's going to be open, right? So then we hit him shaping up, and we'll have a coach there with a pad just talking about catch, right? If you have the quick layup, finish. If he's already there, bodied up, you got to kind of close your shoulders, finish on the inside of the rim. So, those are things that we do, shots in our offense, like where are you catching in our offense to finish around the rim? And then obviously we'll do a ton of stuff finishing in transition. Just a million drills with that. But obviously different angles, different approaches. Something we stole from Coach Locke, a little Snow Valley drill. But like there's times we'll put coaches at the elbows. The players got to throw the ball to the coach. The coach just tap it any which way. The players got to find the ball almost like it was a loose ball or a dead ball, and then just whatever angle you see now, you've got about 8 feet to make a decision and be creative and find the way to finish. So using your imagination, our finishes, off one, off two. But again, it comes down to simple chin on the rim, finish with your eyes, and then what's the third one I'm missing? Chin on the rim, finish with your
low
eyes.
to high.
Start low, go high. Yeah. So those are things we talk about.
Got you. Through all of this, what are some of the knowledge, little nuggets that you've picked up through your USA basketball stuff from talking to your players? What are just, I feel like a lot of different coaches are picking up little things here and there. And obviously you've been doing it for over a decade. So I'm sure it was nothing earth shattering. I don't think you changed your whole philosophy, but what are just a couple little nuggets that you found that you're really excited to, once we get back to normal, knock on wood, to get back with your team on top of just being with your team?
Yeah. Well, that's the first one. Just seeing my guys. Like in Chicago right now, we're locked down. We had to do a virtual banquet to end our season. I've been sending guys workouts virtually. It's been crazy. I just want to see my players. But once we're there, actually, I'm glad you asked that question too, because I think that's a really good piece of advice for anyone listening, whether you're a player or a coach. I think the off season's got to be the time for growth. You read all the coaches, but obviously John Wooden's a staple for everybody. But John Wooden made it a big priority every offseason. As great as he was, he would find one aspect of the game, something that maybe he didn't know as much about, and just study it. And even if he never used it, whether it's, hey, pick and roll coverages one summer, I'm just going to immerse myself in pick and roll coverages and study every coverage there is. And even if I don't, I'm going to use 1, 2, maybe 3 coverages during the season, but I know what every coverage looks like. So maybe if I see it, I'm prepared for it. Just a way to immerse yourself in the game. So for me this summer, I really tried to get into zone defense because one of the big things I took away from a call I was on, I was actually very fortunate to be on a call, and Jeff Van Gundy was on the call with us, and we got to pick his brain a little bit. And because I'm a big defensive guy, I asked him a question about, what are some of your defensive non-negotiables and how are they related to your personnel? And one of my biggest takeaways this summer is that I have every summer I do like a document just with all the things that I want to take away to add for the next season. And this is like the number one thing on the list was he talked about like, your non-negotiables are, like your personnel is going to change the way you play defense, right? But your non-negotiables are the things in your gut that impact winning, right? Like non-negotiables are things that aren't going to change. They're the things that are in your gut that make you who you are, and they're going to make you win the games. So make you successful, right? So, I got to thinking about some of my I don't know if it's good or bad, but I've been just married to this idea that we're going to be an intense man-to-man team, and I take a lot of pride because I think that's the kind of person I am. We're going to get after it. We're going to get in you. We're going to defend. We're going to be prepared. We're going to know our scouting report. We're going to know who we're attached to. Like we get so into that, and I take a lot, and I think we've been successful doing that. But at the end of the day, Jeff Van Gundy, maybe he's like, you know what? If you're just as good as the team you're playing, or the team you're playing has more talent, you're not going to win all those games playing straight man-to-man. You have to muck some possessions up. You have to throw different coverages in. And he made the point that if he were still coaching, that's something that he would probably look at to doing. So I've been really immersing myself into different zone defenses this summer because I think that that's something we're going to have to do. Like if we want to beat the team with, McDonald's All-Americans and we have D3 players, we have to do some things to alter possessions and keep possessions at that, and like if we are and then in pick and roll coverages, if we're icing and switching 90% of our ball screens, periodically on key possessions, maybe we need to blitz, maybe we need to do something different, and like just to really impact that possession. So those are things that I've been really getting into this summer, things that I think will help us be successful.
You have any stats on switching your defense when the opposing coach calls a timeout to draw up a set?
That I don't have any stats on it, but here's what else. A lot of times it's that like that like what do you not want to have happen? Like I know for me, I hate that. I mean, I hate it. Like they've been playing us man the whole game, or they've been playing us zone the whole game. Here's a great possession. I have the set in my back pocket because I know that's how they play us. I've been waiting to pull this bad boy out. And then they come out and they change it on us, and it's like, well, you know what? If I hate that, I probably need to do that more, right? Like it just makes sense. So you're spot on, Joel. Like you have to, as a coach, it is, man. You have to be strategic. You have to try to get into the head of the opposition a little bit, and you have to change some things up periodically. And I'm someone who is so like inundated with doing things a certain way, and I'm like obsessive about our standards and the way we do things. So it's like I've been like, well, if we take possessions off of working on our man-to-man, we're not getting as good at man-to-man. Okay, yeah, we're 10% better at our zone defense, but like how often are we using it? So I've been always just like going back and forth, but it's like, no, like I need to be a little bit more open-minded and throw in some different things defensively for us to be successful, especially when you're playing teams that are more talented. Because again, horses win the races, man. If they have 5 guys and we have 5 guys, and they have 5 D1 guys and we have a couple guys that might play D3, they're going to win more of those games if it's a straight shootout. Like that's just the truth. So, that's what coaching is, right? So.
Yeah, of course. All right. Last question. If you could present any drill to a basketball player for, hey, I think this is going to get you better this offseason, what would you do? Or what drill would you tell them? And we'll go specifically, I want to work on my 3-point shooting because, hey, shooters won the war.
Okay. So if you want to work specifically in 3-point shooting, so man, well, because when you first started asking the question, I'm going to the old Snow Valley staple, box drills, right? The coach lock. I mean, that's what we want our guys doing in the off season, because that's such great footwork, ball handling, finishing shots, on the move. But I think if you're someone, if you're saying I want to become a better 3-point shooter this summer, and again, I don't mean to undermine your question, but it is reps, right? 100%. You've got to get reps. But some of the drills that I would recommend, I would say, again, if you're someone who's getting pin downs, we call it pin down shooting, but just getting off the corner, spinning out yourself and working on that stride step, and then having counters, right? Because if you're getting a bunch of reps and you're getting, if they're locking and trailing you, now you have to have that push out one more dribble, shot. You have to have that. They got on my hip on this side now. Now I have to rip and get into that 1-2 step going the other way. For me, I don't think there's a super magic drill that's going to fix anybody. I think it's reps, and I think it's reps that are focused on the way you're going to be successful. Like if you're a team that is a lot of drive and kick, and you're someone like you're going to earn your stripes this year as a corner 3 guy, then you need to get in the corner, you need to spin the ball to yourself, and you need to get in rhythm and get a ton of shots shooting that shot. I just feel like that's, if you're a high school player, you have to start thinking about who you're going to be and what role you're going to play. And then obviously it doesn't hurt. Like we talked about, develop your game, get a bunch of reps, just shooting the ball around the perimeter, getting confidence and working on your form and being consistent with your form. I don't think there's rocket science behind it. So.
What's your goal for? I said that was the last question, but I got one more question. What's your goal for players to make per week or per day, or how do you break that down?
So, we kind of cater the workouts over the summer to our guys. I don't know. I mean, obviously we want a guy shooting a ton. So I don't necessarily go and say I want this many makes by the end of the summer. Maybe that's something we should be looking at. That's a good point. But what we do is we kind of look at who these guys are for us and where we see them fitting in coming in the next season. And we talk to them about what that looks like. So like to your point, like with my point guard that I was talking about earlier, like this dude started for us as a junior. And I mean, he's got the tightest handle like in 15 years. Like this dude has the ball on a string. I'm not worried about him handling pressure against the best of the best, right? So I'm not worried about him doing a million ball handling drills this summer, but he needs to become a more consistent shooter because guys are closing out on him soft because they don't trust his jump shot. So for him, we talked about getting that shooter's pocket, working on his form, and we talked about 10,000 reps form shooting before he started shooting jump shots. And that was in April, and now he's getting into his jump shot because he's worked on that. His parents got him a hoop. He's been in his backyard. He did 10,000. And actually, before they bought him a hoop, he filmed it. He went to just a open parking lot by his house, and he just did form shooting, X amount of reps a day, and he got 10,000 in because we had to kind of fix that little glitch. And now he's getting those jump shots in every day, and he's getting he's feeling more confident. But then we have some guys who I feel like their form was pretty solid. They're shooting a ton. I'm telling, like we have our bigs are twins, and they're very similar players, and they're going to be our 4 and 5. Obviously, we're not going to be playing 4-on-1 too much this year. We're going to be playing a lot more 5 out. When we do get 4-on-1, one of those guys will rim run, the other one will be the trail. But then it will flow into getting more 5 out drive and kick because both of them, they're 6'5", 6'6", but they can both shoot it. So for those two, we talked about, hey, get a ton of reps shooting the ball. But like this season, they were a little bit more married to that jump shot. They're both athletes too. So we talked to them about this summer getting your shots, but now rip and go and work on finishing, getting to the rim because that's the scouting report. That's what guys see and that's what they know about you, So I think you got to be creative and you got to know who you are as a person and what you need to work on in the offseason.
Gotcha. I really like that point of adding a counter. I was just working out a couple of our guys today. We have a freshman who he played varsity, came off the bench, and I mean he can straight stroke. He's 6'1". He's a really good player, and that we were just working on moves of okay, so you're going to get run. I asked him, hey, how do you think if you were guarding you, what would you do? Yeah. I just run at me. Yeah. Okay. So now what are we going to do? And we're working on the escape and a couple of those. So I think if you've established your game, especially coming back into this next season, think of how you would guard you and then how you would beat that. You know what I mean? Kobe, RIP, I thought he was great on all of that, breaking down in those details of like just how you work on your game. I think he said it's like a puzzle, and you get these different pieces that go together and that's your whole complete game. So any other notes, quotes, things you'd like to share? I know you're an intellectual guy. What have you been reading, listening to?
Yeah, man. Well, actually, you and I, we were chopping up a little bit about that. Some books. You recommended a good one. I ordered it from Amazon. It's coming. The War of Art, right? Was that the one you recommended? Yeah, man. There it is. That's my man.
Yes,
It's coming
sir.
in the mail. But man, you asked me, so I mean, boom. I just got them sitting right here. Like my go-tos. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. This book changed my life. The law of attraction, the way we think, we bring into our life. You know, what we think about the most. You know, we attract what we are. So I just want to be a good person, man. I want to help people. That book, I mean, it changed a lot of the way I think about things. Warrior of the Light, Paulo Coelho. I mean, I didn't have this planned. I know you're going to ask me this, but it just said here.
You're in the office, man. You're out there getting
Yeah,
better. No
yeah,
worries.
man. But I mean, I literally have this tattooed over my heart. It's kind of like my mantra for the way I want to live my life. A warrior of the light. I want to fight for what's right in this world. And I think, you know, serving people through the game that I love, what cooler way to help people. Doing something you're passionate about to make the world better, make kids better, giving kids a confidence and a discipline. So I like to read a lot of that kind of stuff. Basketball books, you know, I got Why the Best of the Best, Kevin Eastman. Shout out to Alan Stein, Raise Your Game. His stuff is right here. I mean, I got books all over the place. I just finished the one I told you about. My favorite read of the summer was The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Like, knocked my socks off. I'm typing up the notes to that. I'll share with whoever wants to take a look at. Man, it's so good, so good. So
Yeah, no,
I can
that
keep
was
going. I'm gonna stop.
no, that's great. So, for real, last question: if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Yeah. So I can give you my email and my social handles. My email, I'll give you my personal email. It's just my name, Nick, Nick, LoGalbo, LOGALB as in boy, O, at gmail.com. And then my Twitter, you know, I have to keep it on private because of the settings from our school district. I can't have any of my current students following me on Twitter. There's just a lot of policy issues with that in our district. So it's just at Coach LoGalbo. Obviously, if you're outside of our district, I'm not coaching you. I don't know if that's a big issue. So if you're a player, I'd be happy to you know, I share a lot of basketball stuff there. If you're a coach, same thing. And then my IG is LoGalbo11. And that's mostly pictures of me hanging out with my kids, but a lot of basketball stuff too. So, you know.
Absolutely. So hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been fantastic. I can't wait to listen back and take some notes. And there's a lot of great information, but the one thing I will remember is you taught your son before he was 3. You got to end on a make.
Yeah, man, that's it. You gotta
I love
start
it.
early, man.
That's fantastic. Well, man, stay safe, and I can't wait to see you. And congrats on the newborn coming here in the next couple of weeks. So really appreciate you taking the time, Nick.
Yeah, man, stay safe. Thank you for having me on, man. It was my pleasure.
Appreciate it.